Ecclesiastes. In a world searching for meaning, few texts have shaped history, hearts, and human identity like the Bible. But beyond the verses and chapters lies a story, ancient, eternal, and alive. Welcome to Speed Reads, where we journey book by book through Scripture, not in fragments but as sweeping narratives rich with depth, drama, and divine design. Whether you're rediscovering these sacred texts or exploring them for the first time, each episode brings you closer to the heartbeat of the Bible, one book at a time. The Book of Ecclesiastes is traditionally attributed to King Solomon, though its authorship is debated. Solomon, known for his unparalleled wisdom, reflects on life in a candid, almost existential tone. Ecclesiastes is often seen as a search for meaning in a world that sometimes feels uncertain, fleeting, and even meaningless. Solomon, having experienced great wealth, wisdom, and achievement, shares his reflections on life's futility without a deeper connection to the divine purpose. The opening verse of Ecclesiastes 1:2 is famous for its stark statement. Meaningless, meaningless, says the teacher. Utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. These opening words set the tone for the entire book, where Solomon wrestles with the emptiness of worldly pursuits. The word meaningless, often translated as vanity, reflects the fleeting nature of human existence. Everything, wealth, pleasure, work, even wisdom, seems to be temporary and insubstantial. This can be seen as a challenge to the idea that human achievement can ultimately satisfy the deepest longings of the soul. Throughout the book, Solomon addresses the transience of life, the inevitability of death, and the unpredictability of human existence. He reflects on how human efforts often seem pointless when faced with the unknowns of life, the passage of time, and the uncontrollable forces at play in the universe. This creates a tone of skepticism, but also a sense of honest inquiry into the deeper questions of existence. The famous refrain, "A time for everything," in Ecclesiastes 3:1-8, reveals a powerful insight into life's inevitable rhythms. Solomon writes, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." He lists various activities from birth and death to weeping and laughing, illustrating that life moves through seasons that are beyond human control. This passage highlights the unpredictability and cyclical nature of existence, reminding readers that all things are temporary. Despite the book's somber reflections, Ecclesiastes is not a completely pessimistic book. In fact, it also offers moments of wisdom and encouragement to live in light of the temporary nature of life. In Ecclesiastes 2:24-25, Solomon concludes, "A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their toil. This too, I see, is from the hand of God, for without him who can eat or find enjoyment." In this passage, Solomon encourages the reader to enjoy the simple pleasures of life, even if those pleasures are fleeting. Ultimately, he points to God as the source of true satisfaction. The idea that human wisdom can only go so far is also central to Ecclesiastes. Solomon reflects on the limitations of wisdom in Ecclesiastes 1:18, saying, "For with much wisdom comes much sorrow. The more knowledge, the more grief." This speaks to the complexity of life. The more one understands, the more one becomes aware of the impermanence and suffering that is an intrinsic part of the human condition. At times, wisdom can feel burdensome because it reveals the limitations of human control and the uncertainty of the future. Throughout Ecclesiastes, there are recurring reflections on the futility of accumulating wealth. In Ecclesiastes 5:10, Solomon declares, "Whoever loves money never has enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with their income." This passage emphasizes that material wealth cannot provide ultimate satisfaction or security. No matter how much one accumulates, there is always a desire for more, and wealth can never fill the void that exists within the human soul. At the same time, Solomon also recognizes the dangers of overindulgence and the importance of self-control. In Ecclesiastes 7:2, he writes, "It is better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of feasting, for death is the destiny of everyone. The living should take this to heart." This sobering advice reminds us that the temporary nature of life should lead us to reflect on what truly matters, rather than seeking to indulge in endless pleasure or distraction. One of the most striking aspects of Ecclesiastes is its emphasis on living in the present. Solomon repeatedly stresses that life's pleasures, though temporary, are gifts from God that should be embraced and enjoyed. In Ecclesiastes 3:12-13, he writes, "I know that there is nothing better for people than to be happy and to do good while they live, that each of them may eat and drink and find satisfaction in all their toil. This is the gift of God." Even amidst the uncertainties and transience of life, Solomon suggests that true fulfillment is found in appreciating the present moment and trusting in God's provision. Solomon also speaks at length about the pursuit of pleasure in Ecclesiastes 2, where he describes his own search for meaning through indulgence in wine, art, luxury, and pleasure. Despite all these pursuits, he concludes that they are ultimately empty, a chasing after the wind. This reflects a sobering realization that pleasure alone cannot bring lasting meaning or contentment. Yet there is also a sense of hope in Ecclesiastes. Solomon acknowledges that life is fleeting and often difficult, but he also calls the reader to live wisely and acknowledge God's sovereignty over all things. In Ecclesiastes 12:13-14, he concludes with a reminder that the whole duty of man is to fear God and keep his commandments. Despite the vanity of life, obedience to God remains the most important pursuit. Ultimately, Solomon points us back to God as the source of meaning and the anchor of hope in a world that often feels uncertain. The Book of Ecclesiastes is a deeply philosophical reflection on the human condition, full of complex themes and profound insights. It challenges us to wrestle with life's uncertainties, to reflect on our purpose, and to seek fulfillment in God rather than in the temporary things of this world. Despite the book's sometimes somber tone, Ecclesiastes ultimately points to the importance of wisdom, contentment, and trust in God as the path to true peace and satisfaction. Thank you for joining us in this exploration of the Book of Ecclesiastes. The wisdom Solomon shares about the transitory nature of life and the need to trust in God provides deep insights for anyone seeking meaning in a complex world. Stay tuned as we continue our journey through the Bible, exploring Proverbs, Song of Songs, and more, unpacking divine wisdom for today's world.